It was a great adventure. Thank you. Especially you, princess. This time, his tone was a bit different. There was peace. He kept his word, Crane was dead, and the cage was nothing. He still lost to Ronan, but now he was ready to face the consequences. Why am I special? She raised her eyes. You saw everything. We had only one way, and it was fighting. It was killed or be killed, but you found alternatives. You made plans and executed them all alone. You are the wisest woman I have ever met. She had no answer, not knowing how to respond. She always wanted this kind of appreciation. She wanted to lead, but never got the chance. Today she proved herself, but unfortunately, it seemed the first and last time. You two kids, Dante said, glancing around the enemies closing in around them, are the best fighters I have ever seen. He stared at them, filled with both pride and regret. A boy who fights with his heart and a girl who fights with her mind. The nights were closing in. It was the end of their story, and they were prepared to die. Ronan's face filled with aggression, but there was relief that he was at least killing them. Suddenly an axe was shot from nowhere, piercing the knight's head in the middle who was at the front. Before anyone could process what happened, people began to flood into the arena, shouting their battle cry as they raised knives, axes, spears, and even sticks, clashing with Ronan's knights. What is this? The Emperor's eyes widened. Who are these people? Asked Mairead, turning her head from one side to another. They are from my village. They are my people, said Aadil, eyes bright with pride. Aadil, someone called him. They turned and saw a young man, little bearded, quite tall, coming to them with two swords. Brother, a man. He chuckled, seeing his brother. Of course, there's more of you. Mairead's eyebrows rose. Although I thought one was enough for multiple realms. A man threw a sword at him, and he caught it. One thing we learned. A man said as he reached his brother, we can't leave you in charge. They hugged. Love to see the family reunion, but we have a 9-foot-tall problem here. The princess pointed her thumb behind at the giant man dealing with Tahersalmania's villagers. People had surrounded the giant, trying to fight him with their axes and spears, but failing as he was pulling them and then tossing them away. Dante. Aadil threw his sword at him. He caught it and nodded. The young thief had faith that the former slave of Ronan knew exactly how to defeat the giant. He looked at the Goliath, raised the sword like holding a spear, and launched it at him, piercing his forehead from the middle. He screamed like a beast. The villagers took this opportunity. Two stabbed his legs with spears and got him on his knees, and one shot his axe in his head. Then the rest jumped over him, attacking. He growled like a wounded animal as the villagers overpowered him. The Emperor's eyes widened, shocked. Some villagers bested his giant, and they were overpowering his army. He watched the fall of his knights, one of the deadliest armies of the entire Desert. And that too at the hands of people whom he once saw as nothing more than insects, people who used to starve to death. Ronan. Aadil bolted towards Ronan. He grabbed a stone and flung it at the tyrant. It thrust in his left eye, blinding it. Ronan shouted in pain, dropped his knife, and brought his hands to his fresh wound. Dante and Mairead followed Aadil through the battlefield, protecting him from the knights who wandered too close. He couldn't see that Ronan was turning into a monster. All he saw was the man who killed Henry. Aadil continued to run towards Ronan, avoiding knights and fresh corpses. But he was not fast enough. Ronan pulled a coin from his pocket, tossed it, and escaped through a portal. No. Aadil lunged at the space where Ronan once stood, but only fell hard against the ground as the portal vanished with that monster through it. No. No. No, he kept screaming. Aadil. A man called his name after some time, the tone of his voice heavy but peaceful. He didn't respond. He again punched the dirt, grunted, and tightened his fists. Aadil, look at me. The man forcefully turned Aadil's head to face him. It's okay. He finally looked at him. The white-bearded old man, wearing a green headscarf with a round white stone attached in the middle, was staring at him with a smile. It's all right, son. No, it's not. I failed. Tears rolled down Aadil's cheeks. Look around. Thieves never fought back before. Today, your people showed defeat to the most dangerous man in the entire desert. You inspired people to fight, and you showed Ronan a taste of fear. He ran like a coward. For the first time in our history, a tyrant ran from thieves like us. I, as the Zaim of Tahersalmania, couldn't be more proud of my youngest son. He sat up and looked around. The wounded thieves of his village were standing over the bodies of their enemies like warriors. Their number was so great that they bested their foes in minutes and crushed them by their feet. They got wounded a little, but left no night. Mairead looked at the Zaim curiously. She heard about him from Aadil. He sounded just like Aadil had said. There was overwhelming peace in his voice, unlike the men of her kingdom. This is your victory. Aadil's father put a hand on his shoulder. You won the battle, Aadil. The young lad stood there in shock, finally realizing that, despite his failure in killing Ronan, the thieves of Tahersalmania accomplished something that no man had done before. Ronan underestimated his enemies, who, until today, had been so fearful that he had no reason to think of them as more than pawns. Although he did get a glimpse of Aadil before. Ronan's dagger sat on the ground where it was dropped. Aadil picked it up. We have yet to fight the real war. We will put an end to the reign of all tyrants like Ronan. We will bring a new dawn. The people of Tahersalmania cheered, raising whatever weapon they had in their hands. Now we have to get out of here, Mairead suggested when the crowd settled. Crane had 2 coins. Something tells me you have the other one, said Dante. Yes, but I don't know how to use it, she said. I do. He exhaled. Mairead gave the coin to Dante, who opened a portal to Tahersalmania, and led all the prisoners and villagers to the village. Aadil and Dante moved away from the crowd, leaning against a giant rock, and watching everyone. Have you ever been to our village? You said one must picture the place where he wishes to go. Yes, I did. You were a kid back then. Dante had his arms crossed. What? He blinked twice. I saw fire in you even then. You know me from my childhood. How? Aadil pushed himself off the rock. I have been friends with thieves for a long time. Secretly. I am surprised your father and your brother Suleiman allowed us to use a portal. They are too religious to tolerate magic, as it is haram in your Islam. Who are you? The real you, demanded Aadil. Can we talk? Mairead interrupted. Both Aadil and Dante turned their faces to her. It's time for me to leave, she said, staring at Aadil with her light silver eyes. Dante nodded, giving them space. It's been a wild adventure. It was an honor to fight by your side, princess. You possess all the qualities of a true warrior. She blinked. A true warrior. She smiled, confused, brows drawn together. What happened? Did I say something wrong? He asked gently. You said something a girl of my land would never expect. Her eyebrows were still up. Then the men of your kingdom are fools. I ran from the palace because my father wanted me to get married. I heard about the Book of All. Thought that it might help my land see the light they desire, especially women of my homeland, but seeing you, I have learned that the light is inside us. We just have to shine bright. Now, I have the courage to say no to my marriage. I don't need some magical book to fight for my people. Your father was marrying you against your will. It's not like that. Women don't really have a say in my land. I mean the world to my father, and he is the only family I have left. But still, we really don't get to choose. But you aim to change that. She nodded. Thanks for everything you did and how you did. Especially for these people. I thought of taking them to my kingdom and convincing my father to give them a place, but that castle can't be home. It never felt like one. As I said, you are the wisest woman I have ever met. And I assure you that this place will be their home. Many of us have lost our loved ones. I believe a lot of us got back what they had lost. He pointed at two children. Both the little girls were playing, running aimlessly. You see them? She always wanted a sister. But her little sister died 2 days after she was born. Her mother died during the birth. Today, she got something back from life. I wish I could stay here. Forever. Mairead wistfully sighed as she looked at the villagers. Aadil's eyes slowly turned back to her. He wanted to ask her to stay, but didn't know why. His heart ached to hear what Mairead would say. Maybe one day, he finally said. It was not something he wanted, but it felt right. Mairead pulled her eyes away from him. Yes, the answer did hurt her. She stowed her disappointment, looking back to Aadil. One day, she repeated after him, but she exhaled, I would like to leave something behind that will remind you that at least one person wants to see you alive. Aadil narrowed his eyes and opened his mouth to say something, but Mairead said before the words could come to his lips. Give me your hand, she said. What? He blinked. Lift your hand. Why? His brows drew together. You will have it back. I am not taking your hand with me. She chuckled. He forwarded his right hand. She slowly handed a thumb ring with symbolic markings on his palm. What is this? He didn't understand. He narrowed his gaze at her. You aim to drive the blade in Ronan's heart. I just wanted to make sure that from now on, you see more than your target. Life is a war in the desert, but it can be more than that if we try to make it. Whenever you pick any weapon and think of killing Ronan or any of your enemies, Henry, your village, your promise, your hatred, she paused for a moment and looked more intensely into his eyes. Think of me too. Look at it and think of someone among all the people you know. Think of the girl who wishes to see you again. And I am not going to place it on your finger. You will do it for me. If I ever see you again, I want to see it on your finger. Not because I made your wear in, but because you too wanted that. Aadil couldn't even blink. He just froze. His racing thoughts paused, and all he knew was that still, he didn't want her to go. Aadil was a boy who only fought by his heart. And Mairead was a girl who could use both heart and mind. She was someone he wanted and needed by his side, but didn't know how to say it. It's time, she said. Aadil nodded sadly, but there was hope and desire in his eyes to see her again. The princess backed away from him, although none of them wanted that. She took out the coin and tossed it. She now had learned how to use it. The portal opened, but both of them didn't take their eyes off one another. Mairead was the first to break, finally turning her gaze as she stepped into the portal, her heart almost breaking in her chest. The portal vanished. Aadil exhaled heavily. It finally felt like it was all over. I know that feeling. Dante returned to him. What?
Love is quite strange, sometimes tormenting, but still, it's one of the most beautiful feelings ever. What are you talking about? She hated your wildness, but she was amazed by your love, loyalty, and respect. Things that she never saw in men in her life. Besides, you are reckless, always thinking by your heart while she uses her mind, makes plans and strategies for the battle, and executes them. These things attracted you two to each other. May not be love, not yet, but it's the beginning of something. Maybe we can call it the seed plantation of that tree. Love? You mean the princess and me? You must have lost your mind in that arena. I lost my mind a couple of times in the last 2 decades. One of them was the night your brother Suleiman got married. All right, who are you? The whole you. What is the slave of Northern Empire? What's your connection to Ronan and Crane? You can't be just some former ordinary slave who escaped from Ronan and Crane. Your title came to Crane's mouth before the Empire itself. To them, you are more important than the entire Northern Empire. And what's this deal with all these realms? And you sound like my brother's friend, but your hair says you are nearly as old as our father. And only your hair. Your face doesn't match with your hair, and something tells me that there is a story behind it. You wish to know me? The whole me. And I am more than happy to tell you. But I can't figure one thing out. What? Where should I start? My life in the cage or as a slave of Ronan? Or maybe I should tell you why the name of this realm is Darzak. Perhaps I should start with Dante, the failed lover.
Master, something unbelievable has happened. For the first time after the War of Argemy, Ronan is defeated. He is bested by humans.
I know. I have eyes and ears in every world we created, and also in that one world that we didn't. And that boy, the princess, and Dante aren't ordinary people. Besides, the entire Tahersalmania fought for them. If that boy alone had killed Ronan, I still wouldn't be surprised.
What's going to happen now, Master?
As always. An era, a world will perish and a new one will rise.
How can a world so powerful perish?
A nation called Ad. Powerful, yet perished. Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, Nimrod, Pharaoh, and Karen, all perished. The 21st century had extraordinary technology, the internet, nuclear weapons, and AI technology. They could even travel in the skies, but still, they didn't survive. This one won't be any different. Their thirst for power will be their downfall. Some will again rise with the dream of becoming gods just like their foolish ancestors and wage war against the truth.
How can you be so confident?
The wheels of time shall spin again. This world will fade as countless have before. Greed, like shadows, will return. Power will again blind the people. Its thirst, cruel and bold, will drive them mad to seek control. They'll clash and burn for thrones divine, seeking to claim what none can own. They'll fight for crowns of gods untold. But in their madness, they will lose their souls. And as their empires turn to dust, their kingdoms crumble, rust to rust. A new dawn will rise from the cold ashes. A world reborn in the embers gleam. And in this cycle, fresh and bold, our game shall begin, a timeless dream.